Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. Ever been minding your own business when crazy advanced alien technology just crashes from the sky and gives you superhuman abilities? Well, we're taking a look at a story with that very premise, as I'm taking issue with Tech Jacket. A story that started in 2002 and then lasted for 6 issues before just stopping. It's an image title created by E.J. Su, the artist, and Robert Kirkman, the writer, whom you may recall from his work on Ultimate X-Men and The Walking Dead. So let's start this off with Tech Jacket number 1 and see if this story makes us want to turn the page or turn our heads. Issue number 1, the cover of which sees our hero suiting up, begins in space as a vessel rockets across the stars. And it kind of looks like an Earth sedan with wings. Must be the Chevy Astro. There are narration captions, but with a bit of a twist. You can see an alien language behind the English translation, which is even labeled as such. As for the content of the captions, the narrator explains his people have been at war for centuries, and after decades of deadlock, their enemies, the Kresh, have gained the upper hand. He and his crew are looking for help in nearby galaxies, but taking a shortcut through a lesser advanced one to avoid enemy outposts. We see the aliens, which have kind of reptilian aesthetics. Their luck has run out, however, as they've detected a Kresh scout ship. The captain notes this is weird, as scouts usually alert warships rather than let themselves be known, so he and a couple of his crew are going out to find what the deal is. Upon command, all 3 are suited up in distinct mechanized battle armor. No declaring the names of extinct animals while holding up coin-operated belt buckles. No 90s electric guitar solos. No floating phantasmal head in a jar. What kind of Power Rangers revival is this? They exit through the hatch and find a platoon in more uniformed battlesuits exiting the pursuing ship, like clowns out of a small car. Notice in the ensuing battle, each side of the conflict has different colored energy blasts, like G.I. Joe. In space! Though the 3 fighters take out some of the enemy, their ship takes some damage, and the blue armored one takes a laser through his sternum. And given the orange one's reaction, I'm guessing that's just as fatal for their people as it would be for us. Orange declares to the captain that the mission must succeed, and sets a collision course for the scout ship. I bet he's going inside to talk things over rationally with their enemies. Over space tea. Or the opposite of that, causing a splash page size explosion with chunks of enemy suits carried by the shockwave. At the bottom we can see that the captain and his ship are taking some of the impact as well. There's a moment of stillness before the commander returns to the bridge, he and his helmspeople being the only ones left. Their ship isn't doing so good, and they'll need to stop for repairs, so it's off to find a suitable planet. I told you to get OnStar installed, sir, but would you listen? No! Cut to Earth's own wretched hive of scum and villainy. High school! Zack, seen in the blue shirt, asked the girl if he could walk her home, and his big and tall friend is ecstatic that she said yes. He has to go meet her by the gym, but when he gets there, the girl, Rebecca, has already accepted an invitation for a ride home and a group night on the town from a student named Brad. Obviously a jock, what with the letterman's jacket and the bird-dogging of someone else's not-girlfriend. Zack is clearly stunned, but rolls with it, saying he'll see her later, and Rebecca replies while walking away and looking at Brad. Tonight on the CW, the series premiere of Tech Jacket. There's something of an oddity I noticed in panels 3 through 5. Zack and Rebecca have the same gradient background behind them as if they're standing in front of the same wall, but she was standing in front of the door and he was walking out of the gym. The only wall that has that same gradient tone is the exterior of the school, but neither one of them was in front of that. Guess someone thought this was easier. But on with the story. Zack, despondent, does a sad Bill Bixby walk down a dirt road to a wooded area, and sits at the edge of a cliff, while we see some tall buildings in the background. Sigh. A girl I like brushed me off, and someone forgot to put clouds in the sky. Could today get any worse? Back in space, the aliens have detected Earth, a Class 9 planet with an atmosphere almost exactly like theirs. Hey, we made it to Class 9! Way to go, Earth! They'll have to land for repairs and hope not to happen upon any natives, though that'll break the first rule of commitment.
You're not repairing any ship on this planet until I see a ring on this finger.
Unfortunately, it seems their ship was damaged worse than they originally thought. Steadying thrusters are out, and they won't be able to land. At their present speed, they can't repair them, and if they slow down, they may not reach the planet. Too much has been lost for their mission to fail, so the captain decides the only viable option is to guide the ship from the outside using his tech jacket. I suppose they could try calling AAA, but maybe they don't want their insurance rates to go up. Zack arrives at his father's hardware store, late as usual, and his dad asks if he's okay. Like any depressed kid, he says he's fine, and Dad, ignoring or not seeing how obviously not fine he is, leads him to the back to check in a large order. I noticed the bottom 3 panels are identical, with only a slightly darker gradient used on the last one, probably to denote a passage of time.
Again, I point out this came out in 2002, and digital coloring was not as prolific then as it is now. Even so, a gradient alone is not exactly a substitute for detailed shading.
As father and son take inventory, the door chimes, meaning someone is coming in, though it's close to closing. Really makes you wonder how well this store is doing when what could be the only 2 employees can spend so long in the back without worrying about customers. Zack stays behind while Pappy goes to the floor, showing off some hammers until he screams in pain. Zack rushes out and sees his father slumped over on the ground, as one of 2 men, wielding a hammer, tells him to keep back. The thug recalls 2 years ago, back when Ed, Zack's dad, took a loan from a Mr. Capella to keep his store afloat, and his payments have been getting smaller. Their boss's patience has a limit, and they can do worse than break some fingers.
Whoa, is this because of that joke I made earlier about the store's low patronage? If so, first off, wow, you guys act fast, I barely started the review. Second, just out of curiosity, does anyone in charge at DC Comics owe you money?
The goons leave, and, well, on a personal note, it's a pet peeve of mine when gangsters, criminals, and the like wear crosses or crucifixes as if to denote personal Christian faith. It's something that's always bugged me with characters that didn't always live up to the ideal, but crooks are another matter. How self-unaware are you when you extort, assault, and steal, yet wear something that represents the opposite of all of that? Okay, moving on before I get too preachy. Ed tells Zack not to ask, that they'll close up and head to the hospital, while not mentioning this to Zack's mom. Back in space, the captain has fully charged his suit and heads out to guide the ship. He wishes his buddies hadn't been killed, as he's not sure he can do this alone. The pilots have tech jackets, but those aren't trained for battle, so wouldn't be strong enough. Gonna go out on a limb and say that doing some real quick crunches and push-ups aren't gonna help matters. As his suit has constructed 2 thrusters about his own height, and he's affixed to the underside of the craft, he muses on the small chance of success and how their mission seems to have already failed. Cheery fellow, isn't he? The vessel approaches our pale blue dot on a splash page, where the planet seems to be morphing into a marble.
Weird. So much detail, and yet also so little.
The morning after the gangsters' attack, Zack is headed out the door, complained at by his mom that he could have gotten more sleep if his dad had dropped him off at home instead of keeping him at the hospital. Kinda makes you wonder how much she knows about her husband's broken hand and how sympathetic she really is. Zack sees a fireball shoot across the sky and follows it until it crashes to the ground. Inside the crater, the captain is narrating that his injuries would do him in even if the ship weren't set to explode. Because his people don't want their tech falling into less developed hands, their ships are programmed to self-destruct in the event of an off-world crash. That's when the alien sees Zack inspecting the site and not understanding the captain's call of alarm.
Now, where have I seen a scene like this before?
Captain Scale Scalp doesn't want an innocent life ended by his actions, and we see his suit dislodge from his back, some of it latching onto Zack's hand, and then an explosion. In the aftermath, Zack rises to his feet and, to his shock, finds the tech jacket beneath his shirt that is only singed. Damage sustained, 0%. Energy cells at 50%. Begin recharge now.
Oh, you know what? That reminds me, I have to recharge my shirt.
At the end of the issue, there's a preview for Kirkman's Invincible, but it's not called Tech Jacket, so moving along. Issue 2 opens on a splash page where numerous other aliens are flying in a large, highly detailed technological chamber of cords and monitors, as a lady alien approaches an elder saying there's a situation. She tells him how one of their scout ships was attacked, damaged, and crashed on a distant planet, and self-destructed per Decree 978-1. It's a tragic loss, but she notes that Tech Jacket 001-00389-2014-5 returned to active status. The Elder seems concerned as they aren't aware if there are any advanced enough species to fuel the suit.
Oh, but we could figure out if it takes double or triple A batteries. Anyone who reads the inside of the battery compartment? Shut up!
They'd actually explored Earth in times before the war, and found humans to be fairly savage and primitive, though still evolved enough to fuel the jackets. They also mentioned the jacket that activated belonged to the late captain, who was named Kelda, and I guess they thought he was pretty great. The woman says use of the jacket could jeopardize local civilization, but the Elder believes there are too many variables for such a swift conclusion. He starts suggesting inquiry, but a rumbling disturbs the chamber, apparently a Kresh attack.
Not now of all times! Steven Universe is about to start! It's the first new episode in 3 months!
On terra firma, Zack decided the best thing to do after such a close encounter with alien life, and his own death, was to head to school and hide in the bathroom. Despite the clear joke they're going for, Zack isn't making use of the toilet, he's trying to remove the check jacket, but it tells him that an executive decree won't allow that to happen, as it ramps up his vulnerability. Realizing his new shirt can answer him, he asks what it is, and it replies it's a Gildarian Physical Assistance Engine, or the closest translation, the title of the book. Though I think Gildarian Physical Assistance Engine might count as a close translation itself. Zack's never heard of the planet Gildaria, and that's when his friend from Issue 1 walks in looking for him, as someone named Daniel saw him walk in earlier. Zack, who's apparently been there all day, plays it cool, saying he wasn't feeling well, and his yet-to-be-named compadre isn't surprised, as he'd heard about what Rebecca did, which Zack prefers to ignore. They leave for classes, and I have to say, this is the first time I've seen a bathroom, in real life or in fiction, that has separate doors for entrance and exiting. Later, Zack arrives at the hardware store on time for a change, and his dad can tell something is up with him, but he just brushes it off as his door chimes. Unfortunately, it's the same goons from last issue.
You know, aside from the owner and his son, these are the only 2 guys we've seen come into this store, so maybe Ed needs to rebrand his business. Make it a hardware store that it caters exclusively to criminals.
The talkative goon wants an unspecified amount of money, and reminds Ed about the seriousness of the situation by slamming his head on the counter. That was only the beginning, as the goon exposits about the loan and his sluggish payments, while his larger partner restrains the proprietor to be punched in the gut repeatedly. Zack walks in, and, as if on instinct, his tech jacket activates. As he seems to jump into the air, it attacks the crooks with tendrils from his hands as it slightly encompasses some of his body. His neck and some of his face are covered, as well as his attacking hand, upper chest, and shoulders. Also, knee pads and some kind of mechanical thong.
Say what you will about the tech jacket. It knows what to protect.
Zack seems stunned, yet the goons not so much. After being attacked by Iron Man's undergarments, all the lead goon can do is call him a freak a couple of times, like the kid was into some crazy new fad he didn't understand. They make a couple of threats about returning and how the kid probably won't be around all the time to protect him, then hobble out the door. Ed suggests they clean up before any customers come in, and then they'll have to have another discreet talk. "Please don't tell Mom. I won't tell on you if you won't tell on me."
And somehow Ed's book on building a healthy marriage collects dust on the bookstore shelves.
On Gildaria, there's a meeting that would put the Senate scenes from the Star Wars prequels to shame, which has decided to move the monitor column deeper into the planet, as it's too vulnerable to their conflict with the Kresh. After a brief discussion, they've decided to send an investigative team to look into the matter of Kelda's jacket, and if a Terran has obtained the suit, he'll be brought to justice. So, what, Judge Judy? Meanwhile, Zach's sound sleep is disturbed by strange lights pushing out from under his clothes. Yeah, that's puberty for you. The suit says it's doing host maintenance, basically cleaning him, meaning no more showers. Ever again. That's a plus. Yeah, it'll give you so much extra time to get passed up by girls you have a crush on. In the morning, Ed wakes him while his mom is out, but then decides to give the kid another half hour before they talk about his machine vest. Good thing it's Saturday. They have a lunch at a picnic table outside, where Zach explains that after the ship went kablooey, he went to school so as not to be counted absent. But he spent all day in the bathroom trying to get the thing off. Neither father nor son are acting as weirded out as they think they should. Given how handy it was against those thugs, it makes Zach wonder about what he could do if he actually knew how to use it.
I still can't figure out how to get Wi-Fi on this thing. On a side note, isn't it weird there was a crash and a huge explosion in the woods near a big city, which left a sizable crater, and Zach seems to be the only one who knows about it?
So they decide to test the jacket out some, like Zach balancing the picnic table with, it looks like, one finger. Then Ed sets up some cans and bottles to test his accuracy of the extensions he used last night. It takes a moment, but he manages it, and again while moving back. Getting even further back, Zach straight up laser blasts the cans, and they decide to call it quits and clean up before Mom gets home. It's apparently 2 days later, at least, as Zach is at school when Rebecca approaches. She wanted to apologize for leaving him behind the previous week, but didn't want him to trouble himself walking her home when Brad had a car. Feels like an apology that only a sociopath would think is an apology. Zach pats her on the shoulder, saying she shouldn't sweat it, but he's gotta go and we'll see her later. Rebecca seems pretty offended by this, and that's kind of funny. How rude!
And here we have the secret to getting over heartbreak. Stumbling upon an advanced alien weapons system.
Zach is walking home, or maybe to the hardware store, passing by that familiar wooded area and looking a bit more upbeat than usual, when he decides to work the suit a little. Armor covers his legs, and he displays some enhanced jumping and flipping. He then fires an energy cannon that causes a tree to fall towards him. Fortunately, he's fully armored when it hits him with a doom. Wow, the leader of Latveria is even a sound effect. Good for him. Zach lifts the tree and crushes the trunk to further test his strength, but his fun is interrupted by an explosion that knocks him down. The issue ends with a third splash page where 4 other tech-jacketed warriors have arrived. Your presence is required, villain.
And don't try and tell us the tree started it. We're not falling for that a 4th time. Come back next week, and maybe this will turn out to be a huge alien mecha suit beatdown, or maybe they just write him a ticket.
This is early 2000s computer graphics, people. Drink it in.